Who said just because it was a single crochet that it had to be boring? The single crochet stitch is one of those basic fundamental stitches that we see all the time. It's used within patterns, within projects, to join projects together, or all on its own. However, the single crochet stitch, when we utilize that stitch by itself, it can be quite boring because it's just repetitive back and forth, nothing special to it. And usually when we use that stitch, it takes a back seat to other things such as the yarn we are using to showcase and let the yarn color or the yarn fiber be the star of the show without the pattern distracting away from that. However, like I mentioned, they can be quite boring. And in this regard, in this pattern that I'm showing you today, I'm going to show you how that single crochet stitch can actually be quite interesting if you switch up where you place it. This pattern today is the front loop only, back loop only single crochet stitch. We are intermixing the two stitches together, and what happens when you do so is you get these really beautiful crests and valleys and interesting details you wouldn't expect, which makes for a very dense, solid pattern that is extremely versatile. You could use this pattern for a scarf, a beanie, a cowl, mittens, a shawl, a jacket, even if you wanted, pot holders, washcloths, really any project you would want, even cuffs. Make on the cuffs or brims of beanies. This would be really, really cool and slightly different to make it extremely interesting. The other benefit to this pattern, because it's all single crochet stitches, is that you can utilize this stitch with any yarn size, any yarn texture, and it'll be fine. Because you're really just working a single crochet just either in the front loop or the back loop only. Now the level of this pattern, yes, we are working single crochet stitches, which an absolute beginner can work, but we are placing the stitches in the front loops only or the back loops only of a stitch. So I'm going to actually put this level into the advanced beginner category. Still beginner because it's still single crochet. It's just placement here. If an absolute beginner wanted to give it a try, you probably could. So go ahead and give it a try. Just understand that if you're starting to get confused with the placing of the stitches, which is going to be a big deal to make the pattern actually pop, then just know you need a little bit more practice. When it comes to the terms, I'm using US terminology, so all my stitches I am referring to in US terms. Stitch count requirement, there is no stitch count requirement. It is a 1-to-1 ratio because again, we are still working that single crochet stitch, which is a fundamental basic stitch. So you can work this up with whatever stitch count you want. Just grab your measuring tape or whatever you need to keep a measurement and make as many chains as you need to meet that measurement dimension, and then start your rows back and forth. Okay, let's go ahead and dive right into actually working this up. So the materials that I am using for this demo, now, like I said, you really could use whatever size yarn, whatever texture yarn you want. But for me, to allow this pattern to really pop and help you to see what's going on, I'm using a size 4 weight worsted medium Aran 10, 12 ply or 8 WPI sized yarn that is non-textured and easier to see with a lighter color. Crochet hook I am using is the H8 or 5mm crochet hook. But again, you can use whatever you want. Some other tools I'm going to have just over here off to the side is going to be a pair of scissors when I'm done with this little swatch that I'm going to make. And a yarn needle or tapestry needle to weave in my ends when I am done, or when you're done with whatever it is you're making. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So starting with a tail long enough for us to weave in our ends at the end of the project, we will create our slip knot, attach our crochet hook, and be ready to go. Okay, so like I mentioned, I'm just going to make a little swatch so I can quickly show you how to do each step, each row, but you can make as many chains as you need for whatever project you are working. So I'm just going to go ahead and make like 15 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No rhyme or reason to that number. It's just the number I decided to make. Okay, so for row 1 of this front loop only, back loop only single crochet pattern, Row 1 is just single crochets. We're starting off the foundation with just a single crochet stitch. So making our first stitch, 1 single crochet in the second chain from our crochet hook. So looking at our V-stitches, we have 1, 2, single crochet in that second chain, and then just make 1 single crochet stitch in every chain or every stitch space all the way across. All we are doing is setting up a foundation. If you are a person that likes making those foundation, a chainless foundation, this is a perfect stitch that you can do to make a single crochet chainless foundation. It will work great. Last stitch here for row 1. Perfect. Okay, row 2, we're going to start by chaining 1, turning our work. Now row 2 is front loops only. So we're going to start with making front loop only single crochet stitches in every stitch space across. So only one front loop only single crochet stitch in each stitch space. So I come from the front where I will take the claw of my crochet hook and I will pick up that first loop. And what I'm looking at here, if you look at the top of your stitches, move this off to the side so you can see, for all of you absolute beginners, if you look at the top of your work, you'll see the V-stitch. I am just going to be picking up that front loop of that V-stitch and I'm leaving behind the back loop, okay? And to do this, some people like to come into the V-stitch on the top and then just go through the front. I am going to grab my claw and come from the outside in. So coming back, crochet in my loop, tighten that up. Okay, so 1 single crochet stitch, front loop only, in each stitch space all the way across. Okay, last stitch space here, front loop, single crochet. Okay, so I want to stop here, pause here, and just mention, starting in this first row of front loops onlys, counting will be a good thing. It'll be a good idea. Just for the first few rows, I highly recommend that you count all of the stitches in each row for the first 4 rows. That way you can see how it'll end, and that this loop here at the end, I ignore, I do nothing with it. If you don't count your stitches, you may be confused by this little loop here at the end thinking I need to put something in there. So again, counting first 4 rows, huge benefit, allows you to really see what you need to expect, where you need to put a stitch. That way you have a better grasp on the pattern and can move forward and the sides of your work will stay straight. All right, we just ended row 2. To get on to row 3, we start by chaining 1. We turn our work. Row 3, we make a back loop only single crochet stitch in each stitch space all the way across. So we come in, looking at the top of our work, finding that V-stitch at the top of our work. Here, I actually will put my crochet hook in the middle of that V and then just dive underneath the back loop only. And then single crochet. So again, coming to the top of that V, back loop only, single crochet. And that's all we are doing for row 3. Right, single crochet, back loop only, and we just finished row 3. Awesome. Okay guys, that's it. That is the extent of this pattern. For the rest of this pattern, all you are doing is repeating row 2 and row 3. Row 2, row 3, row 2, row 3. A couple little tips for you is every even number row, you will be single crocheting in the front loop only, and every odd number row, you will be single crocheting in the back loop only. Now let me go ahead and bring back my demo here for you. What's great about this pattern, because we are working 1-to-1 stitch ratios, is after a while you can get away without counting your stitches. It is true. However, I'm hoping that you do count the number of stitches that are in your first 4 rows. Some cues that you'll get when working this pattern is if you are working the side of the pattern that has these crests in it, you will know that you're working the back loop only. If you're looking at the side of the work that looks way more flat, you know that you're going to be working front loop only. Front loop only will have these beautiful flat side. Back loop only will have more of this texture. So that'll be like a visual cue for you when working up this pattern, so you don't have to remember what row you were on. Technically, you will know just by looking at the pattern which stitch you are working, the front loop or the back loop. And then I do recommend every now and then, periodically, throughout the project, giving a row a count. That way you can make sure you're staying on track and that your work is having those flat, even sides that we all want. Oh, I'm so excited about this stitch, and I hope you are too. I do plan on using this stitch in the future, so be prepared for that. If you would like, I did make this pattern on a stitch swatch. It's waiting for you on my website right now, crochetwithtiffany.com, for you to go print that off. I do highly recommend you play with this. Make a little small swatch yourself, and then just staple it to your card so that way you have a reference in the future. If you're looking for a stitch, not quite sure what you want to work with, come to this and be like, that's it, that's perfect, that's my inspiration. I hope you had fun, guys. I really do. If you enjoyed this video, please push that thumbs up button. It's great feedback for me. If you haven't yet, subscribe to my channel so you don't miss my upcoming videos. I have some great ones coming, and you are not going to want to miss out. If you would like to support my channel or would like some more out of my channel, check out my membership program. I have a couple different levels there I think you will really enjoy, and I would love you to join. All right, guys, if you loved this, check out my other swatch videos, more stitches. Keep going, have some fun. Check them out, they're right here. Or check out this video, which is a recommended video for you to watch. Thank you so much for crocheting with me today, guys. I'll see you at the next one. Bye.